Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you're spending your days managing hypervisors, you already know we're constantly obsessing over CPU scheduling, or, memory ballooning. But right underneath all of that sits a file system, quietly doing the absolute hardest work in the stack. Today, we're unpacking Chapter 8 of our source material, looking at the real-world operational trade-offs of different storage file systems and digging into exactly why the world's leading virtualization platforms actually chose them.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering platform origin stories, a head-to-head comparison, where each file system excels, storage efficiency multipliers, the silent failure problem, and finally, data integrity defense.
Starting with Section 1, platform origin stories and the historical decisions behind them.
Because here's the thing. A file system choice is never just arbitrary. Every single one reflects a historical constraint, a specific performance priority, or honestly, just a hardware reality at the exact time it was built. You really can't understand a hypervisor's storage architecture without knowing the exact problem its engineers were sweating over on day one.
Looking back, we've seen some massive evolutionary leaps. Like in 2002, VMware had this huge problem. They needed multiple hosts to access the same virtual disk files simultaneously for vMotion. There was basically no open-source file system that could handle that kind of performance, so they just built VMFS from scratch with distributed locking. Over in the Microsoft camp, Hyper-V defaulted to NTFS in 2008 simply because, well, it was a standard Windows option. But by 2016, Microsoft realized NTFS just couldn't handle instant VM checkpoints efficiently, which pushed that massive shift to ReFS and its block cloning tech. Meanwhile, VMware recognized by 2013 that traditional SANs were becoming a massive bottleneck, leading them to pivot hard toward hyperconverged infrastructure with vSAN.
At the exact same time, we saw totally different approaches happening in the Linux and HCI worlds. Red Hat was hitting a major metadata scalability wall with legacy file systems, so they adopted XFS to leverage its allocation groups for massive parallel I/O. And then there's Nutanix. They looked at the landscape, realized legacy SANs were completely mismatched for the new flash storage era, and decided to just build a proprietary stack from the ground up. Their NDFS optimized flash storage across a distributed, hyperconverged architecture managed by a controller VM on every single node.
Moving on to Section 2, the head-to-head comparison and feature matrix.
It's absolutely crucial to understand how these stack up against each other today. When you look at this matrix, you see exactly what you get, and honestly, what you're sacrificing. Take copy on write, for example. ReFS, ZFS, Nutanix, and VirtualFS all support it, which fundamentally changes how your snapshots and clones operate. But then, look at the checksumming row. Legacy systems like NTFS, XFS, and VMFS6, they simply don't have native data checksumming, whereas ZFS and the HCI platforms do. Also, deduplication and compression are strictly the domain of advanced file systems like ZFS or hyperconverged platforms like Nutanix and VirtualFS. Really, think of this matrix as your ultimate cheat sheet for architectural trade-offs.
All right, Section 3, where each file system excels, because we all know there's no single magic file system out there.
It's all about matching the underlying tech to your specific workload. If your environment is super heavy on sequential large I/O, like if you're constantly writing massive virtual machine disks, XFS with its delayed allocation or ZFS using its inline LZ4 compression are your absolute champions. But if you're running heavy database VMs that are generating a ton of random, small I/O, you really want ZFS leveraging its RAM-based ARC cache, or Nutanix, which routes that traffic straight to a node local NVMe flash tier.
And when we talk about snapshots, the technology divide is just stark. We've got a really clear split between instant, zero-cost operations, powered by copy on write in ZFS and VirtualFS, or block cloning in RFS versus legacy systems. If you're on VMFS using VMware's data protection APIs, a snapshot literally requires physically copying data blocks. That introduces significant I/O overhead, and that is exactly why VMware always tells you to keep those snapshot chains short.
Next up, Section 4, storage efficiency multipliers, and how we actually save physical space.
Let's see how these choices directly impact your storage footprint and ultimately your hardware budget. Think of this like an efficiency climb. You're starting at a 1.0x baseline with raw NTFS or XFS. As you move up, ReFS gives you a slight bump. ZFS can double or even quadruple efficiency with compression and dedupe. Nutanix pushes it even further with inline erasure coding, and then you completely max out on the right with advanced hyperconverged file systems running global deduplication. And right at the top of those stairs, a platform like VirtualFS can achieve up to a staggering 8.0x efficiency multiplier.
It actually does this by hashing and deduplicating every single byte across the entire cluster, totally regardless of which node or tenant the data belongs to. For VDI environments with tons of similar OS images, this is quite literally a game changer for hardware costs.
But hey, a quick word of warning here. These storage efficiency features, they are definitely not free. If you just go and turn on ZFS deduplication without profiling your hardware first, it will quite literally eat your RAM for breakfast. The general rule of thumb is you need 1 GB of RAM for every 1 TB of deduplicated data. If that deduplication table gets too massive and spills over from your RAM onto your physical disks, your cluster's I/O performance will tank instantly. So consider yourselves warned.
Moving on to Section 5, the silent failure problem, or as I like to call it, the stealthy assassin.
This is the true villain of our storage story, and it's the exact thing that keeps storage architects awake at night: silent data corruption, also known as bit rot. This happens when data on your disk changes value because of a random hardware fault, maybe a bad sector, NANDware, or just a flipped bit in DRAM. But crucially, it happens without reporting an error to the file system. It entirely bypasses your standard monitoring. So your application asks for the data, and your file system just happily returns corrupted garbage, acting like absolutely nothing is wrong.
Which brings us to Section 6, Data Integrity Defense Capabilities.
Let's see who can actually fight this off. Surprisingly, some of the biggest heavyweights in the industry, NTFS, XFS, and VMFS6, are completely vulnerable if you deploy them on standard commodity hardware. They have absolutely no native file system-level checksumming for data. They rely entirely on expensive enterprise-grade hardware arrays to catch and fix corruption down at the SCSI layer. So if you're running these on cheap JBOD storage, you are basically flying blind.
Moving up a tier, Microsoft's REFS and HCI platforms like Nutanix and VirtualizFS put up a much better fight. REFS gives you robust metadata checksumming and optional data checksums. The HCI platforms implement strong checksumming right at the storage engine level, and they combine that with their replication factor to actively self-heal corrupted data blocks using healthy copies from other nodes. But the undisputed superpower, the absolute gold standard here, is ZFS. ZFS calculates a checksum for every single data and metadata block, and it stores that checksum completely separate from the data itself. So, when it reads a block, it validates it instantly. If it spots a mismatch, ZFS silently and automatically fetches the correct copy from a mirror and fixes the bad block on the fly. With ZFS, silent corruption literally cannot persist.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought about your own virtualization environment. If a silent hardware fault corrupted your most critical VM database today, would your file system actually tell you? Or would it just keep serving bad data to your users? The file system you choose really matters. It is the absolute foundation of your stack. Thanks for joining me today, and definitely take a hard look at those data stores.